Hey guys, so this video kind of has two purposes. The first is that I want to release the current beta version of Solomon's Key X and have you guys start playing it. It's not finished yet, there's still a handful of levels I have to complete, but the gist of the engine's there and I'd like some play testing and some feedback. But if you're not interested in games, the other thing is I want to show you my source control process and my CI process. I think it's rather simple, but in talking with other people, it's actually very unique. And as part of that, I'm going to show you why I don't use Git, but I do use GitHub. So let's take a look. This is called Azure DevOps Server. It used to be called Team Foundation Server, but they rebranded it. Despite the name, it does not run in Microsoft Azure. It runs on my server under my control. So here's the projects that I have on here. Shitty Wiki, I'm sure you remember this whole project. So it has all these features. It's kind of like your own private GitHub in a way. If I go into files, I can see all the files. So Shitty Wiki is the project that you see me code in the video, and Wiki Test is the project I do beforehand to figure out how I want to do it. And, you know, if I just go in here, you can see the files. Obviously, this is all pretty standard shit. Change sets are like commits, so here's all of our, our videos, part 5, 6, 7, all that stuff. This is pretty straightforward. I really don't go into the web UI that much. Really, all my work is done from within Visual Studio. So my source control process is pretty straightforward. I make changes. I test my changes, I play with my code until I get it to a stopping point where I'm tired of dealing with my code, and then I check in my changes, and that's it. So let's just do that. If you look on the right here, all these files have like a little blue lock next to them, except this one, it's got a red check mark. That means that I've made changes in this file. It's automatically checked out. I don't have to do anything special. I don't have to sync. I don't have to pull. I just start editing the file when I want to edit the file, and when I feel like my changes are meaningful, I check it in. So I'll just go up here. Actually, I go to the whole solution. I just do check in. If I haven't saved changes, it asks me. And I have a comment. I can put a comment here if I want to put a comment. I don't have to put a comment. This is completely optional. When I'm starting out a new project, I'm making tons of rapid changes, and it doesn't make sense to document things because they don't even have their final names yet. So it bothers me like when Git requires like a whole file that's with a specific format. Like, just let me push my changes to the server. And then that's it. It checks in whatever's been, changed. It syncs everything up, and you're done. And I really don't do anything else. Now, let's say later on I want to see, what's going on. Like, so this function right here, you can see that there's one author, and there's 2 changes. And if I want to open this up, I can see this is what happened. Here's the changes. Let me go to it. Let me go to something that changes a lot more often. So here we go. This render function has changed 10 times, and if I want to go back to, let's see what it looked like in October. So let's compare this to October and see what's going on. Oh shit! Look, all this stuff is different. Wow, this is craziness. Whoop-de-doo. I mean. If multiple people are working on it, like it says the name of who last edited it, and if it's checked out or someone's doing something with it, it's a really no-brainer. Like when I look at like Git as an example, and there's just so many constructs and steps, and like to me the only step there really should be is checking in code, making periodic check-ins. Hell, some people might even say that the code should just check in on its own, like on a timed schedule, because a lot of people are just individual developers. They use code repositories as kind of like their autosave. They use it as their file history so that they can go back or they can restore a file. It's not always about people working in isolation on the Linux kernel that make, scores of changes offline and then bring them all to the table with a nicely documented file. I mean, we make very rapid incremental changes, and I've tried Git both at home and at work, and it just is like a speed bump. There's a lot of steps that you want to flatten out and just make like a single keystroke. So like as an example, the wiki for SKX is versioned with Git because it's the wiki from GitHub. And if I want to do the same exact thing and check in the changes here, even with Visual Studio's UI and integration and everything, the first thing is that I have to enter a message here. So I'm just going to put a dot, obviously. This is documentation. I don't need to describe the comments. You can just compare them and see what I've changed. So I commit it, and then this is where, TFS would be done. But then here I have to do this other step of pushing it. Why is that 2 steps? When you do the commit, like you're just making a local change on your local file system. Like I don't need another copy of these files. I don't need, just push it to the server. I'm not in Siberia, I'm on the internet. If I'm making a commit, I'm making a commit off of my machine. Why would I just be sitting here making commits to my own machine? I don't understand. My problem with other source control is that it works at the file level and the line number level. It doesn't work at the function level or the class level. I can just see right here with this class, what's changed in this class? When did it change? Who changed it? Who's been working on this? I don't need to think about what file this is in, what line number it's on. I don't have to do a diff just to get the specifics on this class and this class alone. And if I want to make comments and annotations and leave comments in the margin for my other developers in real time, I can do that. If I want to live code in real time, that's really awesome, where like we all have multiple cursors and we're just editing code in the same file at the same time. I don't have anyone online at 7 a.m. in the morning that I can do a live code share with, but I mean, this is what I am used to. All right, so now let me show you what's happened in the cloud, because I do have a CI pipeline set up. So if I come over here, back to here, I'm going to refresh this now. This is the releases page of the GitHub project. And if I refresh it, you can see that check-in that I just created 5 minutes ago is now available on GitHub. It's a draft. I haven't published it yet, but I will in a second, because part of this video is I'm releasing this beta. You can see that it built the package for all 3 platforms and it zipped them up. And let's actually look at exactly what happened when I did that. So if I go into pipelines, oh, I'm in the wrong project. Let's get out of shitty wiki. And let's go into here. You can see I have a CI pipeline for this particular project. And here's the last run. Oh, there's a warning I got to look at, but so that's helpful. I think I have warnings hidden in Visual Studio, so I didn't notice that there. But if I go into here, you can see what happened. So the first thing is it checked out the code and it restored all the NuGet packages. So it updated all the libraries. It did a test build on the portable.NET version, so if this failed, it would have notified me and sent me an alert, and I mean, it shouldn't have failed, because why would I check in code that doesn't run? But it's a good check. And then we go through and we package it for Windows, for Mac, and for Linux. It uses these pub XML definitions. And then it does a step where it copies it to a folder that is available on the web that I've been using so that people can download it. And then here's where it actually pushed the release to GitHub. And you can see GitHub gives me the URL back when it creates the release. So why am I using GitHub if I'm not using Git? Well, the biggest issue is that Git doesn't support anything other than code files. There's a size limit even on code files, and the problem is, well, obviously with this project, it's a game, and it has assets. And those assets, as they exist in the repository, are uncompressed, because they get compressed when we build the compiled binary. And I don't want to break those apart from the code. If I edit the art, I'm going to be editing the code that animates the art. That should really go hand in hand. I want them versioned together. If I have to take my art and sounds and music and version that in a completely different system, then I might as well version my code in that completely different system. And it's not just about game projects. I mean, both at home and at work, I use a lot of repositories. I mean, almost all my projects have some file that's over 100 megs or some file that's not code. I mean, this is 2021. There's more that goes into a project than just the source code. And if you're keeping those things someplace else, then that's more work you have to do and more opportunities for it to become desynced. If I go into my change sets and I look at, let's say, this previous one, you can see that, the images, the assets are part of my change log, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Whether this is music, sounds, encrypted blobs, digital certificates, it really needs to support binary files and be able to give me a sane preview of what's changed. Maybe this isn't the most helpful because this image is gigantic, but so this is the perfect example. I zoomed in a little bit so you could see it. This particular file I change a lot because it's got all my miscellaneous symbols in it. And I can compare, I can go from this version in September to the latest version, and you can see right here what's changed, and you can see which, there's no guessing. And in fact, I can do this, and it actually shows me highlights in green which parts of the image have changed. So that's actually very helpful. This, I think, is a transparent overlay, but I'm not. What is that? A-B flip. Oh, I see. How do I do it? Do I do like that? Okay, I see. See how helpful this is? Even if I edit, hold on. Here's a WAV file. It can't possibly show me anything on the WAV file, but I can still see the history. I can still compare it, and it'll still tell me if the content is, identical or not. And the thing of it is, GitHub doesn't have these limitations. It's just Git. If you use GitHub to host your files online, it works perfectly fine. So I use TFS/Azure DevOps for my actual source control. And then when I actually need to publish source or files, that's when I use GitHub. And GitHub's got a lot of other neat features, like you can just put things right in the repository through their website in a single drag and drop. You can edit the text files directly on the website without having to do one step to commit it, another step to push it, and write a whole commit reason. This is a lot more rapid for me, so this is what I do. Leave a comment below and tell me how you accomplish these things. How do you version your binary files and your graphical assets? How do you rapidly update your repository without letting your source control get in the way? And also, how well does your IDE integrate with your source control? Do you have to work with entire files and line numbers, or can you just go to a specific block of code and have all the metadata right there? I'm really interested in how the rest of the world operates. If you want to see more about Azure DevOps/TFS, let me know. I barely scratched the surface. There's hundreds of things in here that I don't use, including the whole work item, /issue/bug/Scrum, Agile, boards and environments and releases and all kinds of crazy shit. So let me know if this video was helpful. Like, comment, subscribe, consider supporting me on Patreon, and give me some feedback on this game. Let's go ahead and publish this right now. And go ahead and give this a tag name and publish release, and there we go. It is out there.